Hey, I'm Allie.
I'm Liz.
I'm Caroline.
And I'm Nathan, and this is the Aquarium Podcast. All right, now I know we did not talk very much about what the format of this would be. Like, are we going to start with, like, movie talk? Are we going to go right into analyzing the story? I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this.
I have a long list of commentary, none of which is very insightful. So my contributions to this I don't think are going to be very intellectual.
Nathan, I know you said you took a lot of notes. I took a lot of notes. So maybe for maybe the first half hour, 40 minutes, I don't know, maybe we try to just go chronologically and see where our thoughts pick up.
It's such a dense masterwork of cinema that's kind of the only way to dissect it, is to just take it piece by piece from the beginning. Yeah.
It's the start of something new.
I mean, I will be making this comparison a lot while we're recording, but you wouldn't just jump into Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet. You would take it piece by piece.
Okay, we can start kind of with that. In that Variety article, the writer said that it's he said, what do we do as writers when we can't think of anything else? We remake a Shakespeare story. So I didn't think of High School Musical as a Romeo and Juliet take, but the writer himself said that was inspiration for it. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
While I was watching it, I immediately picked up on it, and I don't know why. This time I noticed it, and I never did before, but I was watching it, and I was like, oh, I totally understand why Nathan loves this movie, because this is basically just a retelling of West Side Story, but West Side Story is just a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, which this also is. So I was watching it and going, oh, that's why he likes it. Or maybe he likes West Side Story because he likes High School Musical.
I watched High School Musical in 2006, and I was like, this is fire. And then I watched West Side Story, and I was like, dude, this is just like Troy and Gabriella.
This story formatting is really inspiring to me. Wow, two different ends of the world. I'm like,
why does this resonate with me? Why does this feel so familiar?
Did you ever have a relationship like that when you were growing up? Where you liked the nerdy girl and you were the cool boy.
No, but just by being boys and girls. Boys and girls, girls had cooties. And it was always forbidden. But I was whatever.
Oh, so there's something about
being
forbidden that you enjoy that creates for a compelling story.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
What is the story? Okay, I do Does anyone else have something to add before I jump into a little something I wanted to say?
Well, I just have to say, I mean, not to be negative Nancy, but I don't really see the whole parallel between Romeo and Juliet and this. I mean, I feel like it ends at the fact that she's the weird girl and he's the jock.
Right, and they're being two different worlds.
And they're in love. I feel like there are no other.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's just what he was inspired by.
Yeah, there's also not tragedy in the end.
Nobody dies.
Yeah, there is a tragedy, and the tragedy is that Sharpay and Ryan are understudies.
Okay, though. Forbidden love, though, is sort of an underlying theme. Can we talk about Sharpay and Zeke? And Ryan and Kelsey and Chad and Taylor.
Chad and Taylor did I watched it with my sister and with my mom, and it was cute. Well, I guess at the end, I don't want to act like it wasn't contrived at all, because it kind of was. I was like, okay, Troy and Gabriella are together, and then Chad and Taylor are together. Okay, I buy that. And then Jason and Kelsey got together, and I was like, all right, now they're just coming up with random pairings, bro. They're just boy, girl.
You would not even know that Sharpay and Zeke had like a almost like off-screen flirtation because Disney fucking Plus, as soon as the credits started to roll, I got
Yes.
freaking ad. It was like Spider-Man the TV series, and you can't even watch the credits. And they did that before the Sharpay and Zeke scene. So if you were like suffering from like content brain rot, you would immediately click on the next thing and you wouldn't even know that plot point of the movie because Disney Plus is greedy and money hungry and we're going to hell.
Which is arguably
Is this-
one of the best moments of the movie for me.
It really shows like a lot of like true passion and love.
It shows her humanity.
She says, "You are a genius." Chris Warren, who plays Zeke, is an underrated part of the High School Musical cast and arguably holds the crew together. He's the glue that holds the cast together. And we'll talk about this more when we do High School Musical 3, but he does have that insane laugh in High School Musical 3 where he just goes, "Ah!" And these movies wouldn't be the same without that energy, without him and his creme brulee obsession. He looks at the camera, he breaks the fourth wall and goes, "I might make her a creme brulee." And then like it fades to black. I'm like, huh? Huh. Okay, anyway.
Okay, so the beginning of the movie
Here, hold on.
is
Can I say
so
one thing?
unbelievable. Oh.
Yeah. Before we jump into the story and like the scenes, I just wanted to say that like people don't take this movie seriously, and they think that it's bad because it was clearly made for like $300. They had $300, Kenny Ortega in a dream. All right, No, but I look at it and whatever. It's like straight white guy talk like saying this, but it's true. It's camp, right? They know what they're doing.
Okay,
Is a Disney Channel original
I would
movie.
say this movie particularly, no. Because
But High School Musical too.
yeah, I mean, I would
Yeah.
say that for High School Musical too. But everything that happens in this movie is so wildly convenient and unbelievable. But this is the last movie that has ever been created where you can actually suspend your disbelief.
Yes.
You don't think you can suspend your disbelief in High School Musical 2 when it's the summer and they're all wearing long sleeve
I'm just
shirts and
talking about
jeans?
I'm talking about the whole like franchise in general because like okay, we saw the Fall Guy the other day and like you had to suspend your disbelief a couple times and I could feel myself doing it. But watching High School Musical, I couldn't even feel it. It just came so naturally to me. And
Are
this
you
is the
talking
last-
about when they're like hiding behind pillars or walls and then it's like
Yes. Well, like just the whole entire thing. It's like they meet at a New Year's Eve party and then are both pushed on stage and give slight protest as to show that they don't want to sing, but then they start belting out into song.
And they're both
they know
incredible
every
singers.
word, they can hit every note, they know the harmonies.
Yeah,
But-
so
but-
it was
but
like
it's a musical, though,
unbelievable,
so-
right?
Yeah.
Which I think definitely helped add to it. But this is the last movie that was ever created where you could do that because I think that everybody has failed since.
That's fair. But I will like, but like, Nathan
Not
was
Allie
kinda
gonna like argue with me about this.
No,
like
Fair point, my fellow intellectual.
No, I was just gonna say that, like, along with what Nathan was saying, like, the difference is literally just the filmmakers also taking it seriously. Because there have been a lot of other, like, Disney Channel musicals after movies that, like, just didn't hit as hard. Or, like, I love Camp Rock, I love the music, but, like, the movie and the storytelling, you could tell that there was
okay,
like,
let's
I
all
watched
say
that
it together. Descendants.
Oh God.
I was hyped for Descendants.
look. I don't think Descendants is that bad, but
I actually
But-
never watched
the
the
wigs
movie.
are
It's no High
terrible,
School Musical.
but the music is great. Well, at least in the third one. I don't know.
That's the question. Did any other Disney musical ever sweep the nation the way that High School Musical did? And the answer is a firm no. Absolutely
Affirm
not.
no.
It's the Harry
No, not as
Potter
much.
of Disney Channel. It's the
The
Star Wars of
only
Disney Channel.
the only other competition that High School Musical has is High School Musical 2 and High School Musical 3 senior year.
Exactly.
True.
So that's a heat check because that's
Speak
3
on it.
swishes.
And
And-
also, oh, sorry. You can go.
No, you go, please.
No, I was going to transition back into the opening, but no.
Well, yes, I want to say that, like, okay, you guys are saying, like, okay, this is
Well,
a fun
yes.
movie. Like, the tone is, like, you can suspend your disbelief or whatever. But something that I'm going to argue, okay, throughout this episode, throughout this discussion, is that, okay, you can say it's, like, not camp, whatever, however you want to define it. What made this movie a hit is that it's good. And by it being good, I mean, like, it's a good story. Like, that's why it led to High School Musical 2, which I wanted to mention, and I'll mention this when we do it, is Disney Channel still to this day, I'll fact check this before we publish this, but still to this day, their highest rated movie premiere. These movies, yes, like you said, they have the most cultural impact, and so we take it seriously, and so it's a good story. And I wanted to ask before we jump into the story, because I think we might cut this too, but, like, what's the log line that you would write for this movie? Right? And
Also,
I think
wasn't
that
it-
it's pretty
wasn't it-
strong.
Wasn't it High School Musical 2?
Yeah, High School Musical 2 was the most,
Yeah,
was
that's
the
right.
highest rated movie premiere, yeah.
And then right after that, Phineas and Ferb debuted.
Do you guys remember watching it, like, in your parents' bedroom, High School Musical 2? Like,
I was
watching it?
sick.
I think so.
I was ill, and I ate a hamburger for dinner. I remember this. We had hamburgers for dinner, and then I went upstairs, and I immediately came ill.
We
And I
we
watched it
low-key
on my
gotta
TV.
we low-key gotta save this for the High School Musical 2 discussion, but I will say that maybe we should do High School Musical 2 and the first episode of Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah, that would be fun. Okay, so logline.
I don't want to use my brain for that.
Well, okay, I'm just gonna. Okay, a jock and a nerd. How else would you describe a freaky science girl?
Yeah, right?
Challenge the status quo at their high school, whatever.
Say that. Topical.
When-
But I loved it.
When a freaky nerd girl and the high school basketball team jock meet unexpectedly on winter vacation. Wait, meet unexpectedly and then go back to the same high school together. Oh, okay. When a high school jock finds out that the girl he spent winter break with is now attending his high school, the pair must break through their social barriers in order to stay together before their friends find out. And they sing.
I like that, Liz. Okay, so
It's a little
Caroline?
wordy, a little wordy.
a little we
Are
can
we
cut it
doing? I
down.
feel like we're not doing this justice because I feel like it, like we
Low-key,
all-
I don't think these are bad. I don't think these are bad.
Tragedy strikes high school when two extremely talented and hardworking young performers
Tragedy struck this weekend.
get usurped from their
Tragedy
throne.
struck when a nerd fell for a jock and upset the
no.
social order.
When two
And they had to be
extremely
put down.
They had to be dealt with.
performers get usurped from their throne by a freak nerd girl and a jock that just showed up yesterday and have never sung a day in their life.
No, that's a lie because Gabriella used to sing in her church choir.
Facts. Oh my god, my laugh is like clipping in my audio. It's so
That's
good.
like the log line like Sharpay would write.
Exactly. I
When
am
two
arguing
people
with
show
that log
up
line that
and
maybe
ruin-
she's the protagonist.
Ruined my life.
Sharpay is the protagonist. She's like Iago in Othello.
That's like a theory that a lot of people have, like not in like you can't just like change the protagonist, but like they're like it might be her story
Like she was
told
the
through the
victim.
perspective of the two main characters because she got fucked over the most.
Do you
Was
remember
she a
that Twitter
bitch?
thread?
She was a bitch, okay, but why was she a bitch?
She was deservedly a bitch.
Dude,
She got her
Sharpay
spotlight
was my
stolen.
favorite character growing up, but also like I love like Rachel Berry in Glee, even though I know she's like terrible.
They're
and, like,
related.
evil. But like I love me some Rachel
Sharpay's
Berry.
mom. Dude, Sharpay's mom should have also been played by Idina Menzel. In High School Musical 2. With the
So
cucumbers on her eyes.
I agree with you, Allie. As we know, I love Rachel Berry as well.
There's a reason why they made Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure. Did anyone ever make Gabriella's Fabulous?
Yes, I did with Austin Butler. Austin Butler starred in Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure, and everybody thinks that they know him from Dune or from Elvis. No, he's from Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure and the Carrie Diaries.
Is there a scene in
Aliens
Sharpay's
in the
Fabulous
Attic.
Adventure? Oh, he's in Aliens in the Attic?
Isn't he?
I don't know.
And Gabriella stole him again. She got Austin Butler from. She got Troy, and then she got Austin Butler. That bitch.
Crazy.
Ashley
Does-
Tisdale can't win.
Does Austin Butler in Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure say, "It has everything to do with us"?
No, he's like a pervert. He like walks around with a camera and like won't leave her alone. Like if that was made today, everybody would be like, we cannot continue to glamorize the stalker trope in our films.
We should talk about this more later, but Zac Efron proved that he was good casting for Ted Bundy when Gabriella turned around and he was just standing there on her balcony. But anyway. Okay.
Did you steal that from a tweet?
No, Caitlin came up with that actually. I watched it with Caitlin and she was like, "Oh, he's giving Ted Bundy."
You should tweet that. You should tweet that.
Dude, I would like blow up on X.
Honestly.
Bro, you should X that.
On God, bro.
All right.
Should we start back at the beginning of the movie?
All right. Yes. Okay. So, do we describe the like I know Nathan and I talked about this how like everyone's seeing High School Musical. We don't need to explain it. Like I think for movies that not a lot of people have seen maybe.
Yeah, but also when I watched it, it started at New Year's Eve and the New Year's party, and then my mom was like, "I don't remember any of this." And I think that that's kind of like that's kind of interesting and maybe telling that like, you know, I love this movie. Maybe like does she remember it today? Probably. Could you make an argument that then it's just not as strong of an opening as what time is it? I think you could as well, right?
Yeah, but okay, so we open, it's New Year's Eve. Troy and Gabriella are on vacation, and I think it jumps into the story very effectively. I feel like it
Very
takes
quickly.
no time. The pacing is honestly perfect. in the
Troy,
first half of the movie.
basketball. Gabriella, studying. That's what they do.
Dude, seriously.
Like, literally, the
and-
first line is like her mom being like, "Enough reading." Her mom said, the first line, "Enough reading." The first line that we hear Troy's mom say is, "Did we fly all this way to play more basketball?" So,
Yeah.
what's his name? What's the screenwriter's name? Peter Barsacchini. He said, "Yeah, I'm just going to like immediately tell. Is it telling? Is it showing? It's a little bit of telling low key, but it's also showing because we see Gabriella reading, we see Troy playing basketball, and then it's hit home by the dialogue, right?"
Because we talk a lot about how like, you know, like there's like in most movies it's most of the times this is the case, but it's like there needs to be one protagonist or whatever. But like I think this film does
This
a
is
great
two.
job at doing dual protagonists. They are like very clearly like I feel like they're very multifaceted. Like we learn their fears. We it's not like I feel like I know more about one character than I do the other. I feel like Troy and Gabriella get a very equal amount of like home life, personal life.
Let me point something out, though, before we continue. I know we're still at the very beginning, but I wanted to mention it's not a story with two protagonists, right? I think it's two stories. Does that make sense? I don't think you can think of one story as being about multiple people, but I think you can think about a movie as telling several stories at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful. The first one, you're saying the first
Definitely
movie?
the first one. Past the first one, it does unfortunately become
does
only
focus on
Troy's
Troy.
story. Because I do think that as you develop a story, you kind of have to pick one. But I do think the first movie does a good job of telling their story. Mm-hmm. Or two stories.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll have to talk more about that when we do the other two, because it's do we focus as much on Gabriella and in the second two? I actually don't know, right?
Well, I do think
but
she's
in this one,
just a less filled out character than Troy is, even in the first movie. I mean, I think when we open, they do establish both of their characters very well, and you can tell that they're
and she's
multifaceted.
first, actually.
Yeah, like, and you're not like, oh, she's just a nerd, and you're not like, oh, he's just a jock. You immediately are like, he's a nice guy, like, she seems like a really nice girl. But then it's true, like, as the movie goes on, you don't really see Gabriella's personality outside of Troy. Whereas
that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say.
Gabriella's story is about Troy, and Troy's story is about basketball and Gabriella.
And about being an artist.
Yes.
It's barely even about Gabriella. What I thought was interesting is that his conflict is about, can I sing? And her conflict is about, can I date Troy? And I don't...
True.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Does that mean that we, as a culture, see stories about women and like stories about women have to be about romance? Maybe. I don't know.
I will point out though is like her conflict just feels a little bit different, especially with like the crowd that she associates herself with, like Taylor and their little like science group. It's like they kind of make it seem like, oh, in order to be like a feminist and a strong girl, like you can't be dating just like these like random boys, like, you know what I mean? And I think Gabriella's just like, why can't I just be a normal, like, why can't we all just be these complex individuals? And I think that's what both of those character storylines are saying to
when
me.
Troy says, I just want to be a guy, and then his dad or something, he says, she's just a girl, or I just want to be a guy or something, and then
Troy.
his dad says, you're just not a guy, and you're like,
so good. So good.
that was dope. That was
But
crazy.
I don't know. I genuinely, now that I'm thinking back, I don't know if there's ever a conversation that we see Gabriella have that doesn't revolve around Troy. Like, does High School Musical pass the Bechdel test?
It probably does not.
Well,
I don't think it does.
like maybe though, with that opening scene with her and her mom, does that count, or can they like not be related?
I think
It needs to
has
be
last
like
longer than that.
It's like 2 minutes of screen time between two women
Oh,
where they're
2
not
minutes.
talking about a man. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's
and so it's
also-
like, no, go
Troy,
ahead.
I mean, Troy is the one that kind of drags her on, like keeps her on stage singing. He's the one that shows up at the callback or the audition to sing together. Like, I wish maybe we had a little more of her. Like, it's kind of the story.
Is that true that he keeps her on stage though?
No.
Because he's about to turn around and leave, and she starts singing. So
Because she's like, I want to audition. And then
Yeah,
he just
yeah,
comes in
yeah.
to
You're
help
right.
her.
I'm wrong. I stand corrected. You're right.
So I think it's like, I think it's so great because there's this push and pull, and I think it's like you see Troy's growth in the end when he is the one keeping her on stage because he's like, this is what you've brought out of me, and now I'm, breaking free.
so that's
When
so,
I was
so
oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say that's like the fact that Gabriella isn't written as sort of like this plain character is like, should we basically, it's like, should we look at this movie as like, and this movie doesn't pass the Bechdel test?
No.
Or is this just about a girl who likes a guy and there's conflict there? Because that also could be what it is, and it might not be that much deeper than that. You know what I'm saying?
It's
and
true,
I think
Troy
both
has-
should be on the table.
Troy has more conflict internally, I think, than Gabriella. Like, he
Yeah.
has more conflicting factors going on. So maybe that's essentially why they ended up following his storyline.
yeah.
I think whenever I was a kid and I was watching this, I always thought that Gabriella was the main character. Like, I thought she was the protagonist the whole time. Because I think maybe it had something to do with the fact that I was a girl. So,
And there was like a shot. There's a shot that she's the main character. You're like, this movie rocks.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, it opens with her. So, like, my little kid brain was like, story leader.
Aw.
And you know what? we're like, oh, this doesn't really pass the Bechdel test.
Okay,
But
well, to be honest with you, it probably does because like Sharpay and Gabriella have like a bunch of different conversations. Plus, that test is bullshit. All of my favorite movies don't pass it. I'm almost positive about that. Okay, this is an aside, but people are like, you're telling me in a 2-hour movie, 2 female characters can't talk about something else? And it's like, no, they actually can't. We need to like drive the story forward. Like, they can't just sit and talk about like the weather. Like, what the fuck do you?
right.
They want like the One Piece like 700 episode like slice of life, like just a conversation with 2 like there's like it's like Dune is happening, and then it's like Zendaya has to like talk with her bestie about like the latest fashion trends.
Could you imagine how bored we would all be, really, if there were 2 uninterrupted minutes of like 2 women just talking? That's when Run
like
Pee
what...
would say to go pee is in that moment.
Yeah, right. But
the TikTokers that like make the videos where it's like Dune is a 3-hour long movie. Here's whenever you can go pee. They would be like, whenever Zendaya starts talking about shoes, get up out of there, girl.
That is like where that falls apart. There's this like, it's called Goodhart's Law. It was in the Atomic Habits book that I just read, but like it's like when, and I put it in the newsletter, but it's like when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. So I think that's when people are like, oh, this needs to pass the Bechdel test. It's like, what's the Bechdel test for? Fleshed out female characters. You could make the argument that this is a story that tells Gabriella's story with respect and takes her seriously and is empathetic and, you know, all the above. And you can actually say that Troy at the end, for example, if this was a movie that just focused on Gabriella, Troy's like basically his sole purpose, and I guess maybe it's a little bit of a, like, it shows the issue, I think, with telling 2 stories at once. He doesn't have a moment at the end where he like doubts himself. Like his sole purpose at the end is to convince Gabriella to like be herself there at the end when she freezes on stage, which, by the way, incredible shot. That like wide angle, like we're up on her face and she's like almost staring at the camera like Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs, and you're like, this is art. like whatever. It's like directed by Kenny Ortega, right? So I mean, it just kind of goes to show like our generation's Bob Fosse ? But yeah, Troy is actually kind of arguably not fleshed out at the end. So that's why I would make the argument that this is like, I guess, a story that takes Gabriella's character pretty seriously. Anyway,
Yeah.
Would y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
Well, I would argue that he does doubt himself. I mean, in the moment when his team, like, catches him in the locker room, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, well, totally.
And then he kind of throws it away.
Wait. That happens at the end?
No, it's like that's the thing. It's not like right at the end. It's like
when they
more
do
so
that, get your head in the game.
At the 3/4.
Get your head in the game. It's like, dude, y'all are like the most theatrical group of basketball players in the world. I love that this whole movie series, Chad and I Don't Dance, get your head in the game. It's like, yo, y'all cannot be dancers or singers. We're going to do a dance number to prove it. It's like, this is insane.
I love that suspending disbelief. That is like my favorite. It's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best dancer too, ironically. Like out of everyone in the movie, like Corbin Bleu is the best dancer.
They don't make him like him anymore.
Well, like, also...
They really don't. I'm sorry, Allie.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to say that, like, kind of along those lines where, I know we talked, this goes into the other movies, but, like, kind of choosing Troy as the, like, I guess the main protagonist almost, but, I feel like I hadn't watched this movie, I guess rewatched it in a few years, so, I mean, toxic masculinity is, like, honestly, like, the main theme, I think, like, beyond just doing things outside of your comfort zone, but, like, I that's what I gathered from it. So, I don't know, I feel like I'm glad they chose Troy because I felt like our generation kind of needed that. Something that I read in that Variety article as well is that they were trying to figure out a way to market the musical, or basically get not just the girls on board for this movie, because they had never really done a movie musical to this extent on Disney Channel, but they knew they had like girls as an audience, but in order to get boys, I guess, to like buy into the musical, that's why they did like the first number as a karaoke number, and then the next song was Get Your Head in the Game. So it's like it's getting kids to not even realize that they're watching a musical because these people are doing karaoke, and then boom, oh, this is about basketball, and then at the end of it, you're like, whoa, okay, I just watched a musical, and I
That
think
is
that's so interesting.
crazy.
That's brilliant.
It is crazy. It's so smart because I remember as a kid,
This is what Debbie Ryan wanted to do when she was like, I wanted to make history. They already did.
Literally. And I remember like my older boy cousins, you know, I'm Mexican, so in my family, very like toxic masculinity, you know, like boys don't do that, girls do this, whatever. But like I remember all of us were tuned in to these High School Musical movies, and we were all like, I think at one family gathering, I think they were premiering like Cheetah Girls 2, and by that time there had already been a lot of musicals, and so like we were all sitting around the TV watching, and so I think it got a big group of kids, boys and girls alike, to take this art seriously and I don't know, appreciate storytelling, regardless of what, I guess, I don't know.
That's true though, and that's been like Disney's issue kind of as a brand is like boys are gonna want to watch like when we were kids anyway, Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and the sort of edgy or rougher stuff. And I remember High School Musical came out and there was a question, dude, I'm like 5 years old at this point. Like it's like how do I even know to like ask myself this question? But I'm like, yo, can I like this? Like is High School Musical too girly? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like that's
It really is gender neutral.
High School Musical is so non-binary.
No, it actually is, because I remember being like, this doesn't feel like a girl movie or a boy movie. Like the Scooby-Doo movie. It's not a girl cartoon or a boy cartoon. It's kind of a cartoon for everyone. I mean, it's like a talking dog. Do you know the video I'm talking about?
No.
There's a video of oh fuck, what's her name? Like the actress that plays Daphne in the Scooby-Doo movie.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
And it's like one of those
We
like
should do
it's like a press interview, and she goes, well, it's kind of like for everyone. It's not a girl cartoon or a boy cartoon. And then it cuts to the guy that plays Shaggy, and he goes, I mean, it's like a talking dog. And it's like, I guess it's like assumed that the question was like, why do you think so many people like the movie?
Right.
And he's like, it's a talking dog. Like, I don't know where I was going with that, but High School Musical feels very gender neutral.
Yeah.
There are an equal amount of boys and girls. Which I also clocked as a kid. I was like, yep, 3 and 3. That looks good on the poster.
I had like a boy cousin that was my age, and it was very much like I was wearing
Are cousins like usually
clothes.
like women? Like why are we like, I had a boy cousin.
Let me get to my point. May I get to my point? But he was very like trucks and, you know, and I was the girly girl and he was the boy boy. But I remember we watched every High School Musical that came out together. We went to the theaters and watched High School Musical 3. And then we talked about that recently. He was like, that was so funny because like I can't believe I liked that. Like it was like the girliest thing I ever liked. But I would also argue that maybe they picked Troy's story as the protagonist because that was like boys' way in too. Like this jock that's like, can I be different?
That's what you're saying was in the article, this Variety article that you read right before this, Allie, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that was kind of their intention.
And I don't know if that was like the original intention with the script or like how they planned to arrange the vocal number, like what kinds of musical numbers are these? And then along those lines, it's like the amount of different like musical genres that this movie like incorporates is interesting too, and that was also a creative choice, like very different types of music and
it's like
dance styles.
Get Your Head in the Game and I Don't Dance. I Don't Dance is more avant-garde, but like they're both like these like hip hop numbers, and not even like 2000s hip hop, but they sound like 80s, 90s. Like Get Your Head in the Game is really like dissonant. I'm like, dude, like I wish.
Well, there's a lot of references to hip hop in the whole thing. Not like reference, like they literally say like hip hop. Like there's a line, and I literally wrote it down because I was like, not shocked, but like at the beginning of the movie, when he's like trying to get Troy to stop doing like to stop singing, He's like, have you ever heard someone do show tunes? Like, no, like jazz is a pillar of music. Hip hop is like the most important part of our culture. And I was like, oh, they were like admitting like on Disney Channel that like hip hop was like a prominent part of modern culture. And I guess I just found that to be surprising that they said that in 2006 on Disney Channel, because I feel like they wouldn't be saying that today.
Yeah.
You don't think they'd have like Lil Baby on an episode of Bizarre
That was uncalled for.
Okay, can I, not to bring it back, but I'd also argue that around 2006 was really a time when like bullying was being actually discussed. And this was like a moment, like this movie was kind of like the Sex and the City of Disney Channel, where it's like, we're like making it acceptable to talk about it.
Gabriella
Like,
is moving to Albuquerque.
like maybe kids can be different. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of like a very topical for the time.
Yeah. And it was pre-Glee. Like, Glee hadn't come out yet. But another thing with, like, okay, because, like, Glee follows similar, like, themes and tropes. But audience-wise, I'm aware watching Glee that, like, not everyone will like Glee. You know what I mean? But, like, High School Musical was so undeniably charismatic that it was awesome. Also, wait, did you guys like how many times Gabriella just like walked while Troy was talking? Like Troy would just be talking and she'd just like walk away.
I did not notice that at all.
Two times. Like first is like with
Oh,
the
you
phone
mean like
number.
at the beginning when and
She just walks away then, and then when they're in the hallway, like, talking, he's just talking, and then she just keeps walking.
Oh, I don't remember when she did that in the hallway. I did like when he got her number, and then he was just like, Gabriella.
So where do you...
Which, by the way,
And then she's gone.
very West Side Story, Maria.
That's actually, that was, Kenny Ortega did an interview, and they asked him what are his biggest movie influences, and that West Side Story was the first movie he said that he knew that he wanted to do that.
I feel you, bro. Shit
amazing.
click for me, too. Click for me, too. Like, all right. Anyway, I know we're still at the very beginning. This might be the world's, like, longest, like, focused discussion on High School Musical ever. Marked difference from Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet don't meet until Act 1, Scene 5. Troy and Gabriella meet within the first few minutes.
And that's a better story.
Well, is it better or is it
Yes,
different?
because I read
Is it
Romeo and
different?
Juliet, and that shit was boring.
Yeah, I like that they meet first, because I don't know. I feel like it gets you like locked in. You're like, when are they gonna see each other again? And then when they go back to school and everything, again, the pacing doesn't give you time to even think about these things, which is so great because you're watching it and you're not. I feel like when you're watching a movie or reading a book or something and you're letting those thoughts linger, like, when is this gonna happen? Like, that's when you know that the story isn't as effective as it could be. And in this movie, I didn't feel that way. If anything, I'm just like, whoa, this is like moving pretty quickly, but like in a good way.
I mean, I will say that they could have, and this would change the story, but it could have been that Troy and Gabriella literally were more like Romeo and Juliet. And I guess specifically like Romeo. I don't really remember if Juliet is like, oh, like I need a man's, right? But like Romeo starts and Rosalind has broken his heart and he's like moping. So then it makes sense when he meets Juliet at the ball that he'd be like, yo, you're about to solve all my problems. I'm like a romantic at heart, right? And High School Musical could have done that too, but it, that wouldn't, like, that would change the character of Troy. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, we're also not introduced to the conflict that they can't be together until they get to high school. Like, when they first meet, on New Year's Eve, it's like, what could possibly go wrong? Like, they're both cute, they both like each other, like, they sang, it's magical. So not until they get to this high school and their, like, personalities and social groups are established do we get to that conflict.
Yeah, because most of the time in, like, romance movies or, like, these high school movies, it's, like, the biggest issue is communication between two people. And this is, like, an instance where their actual just, like, relationship isn't bad in the beginning. Like, they could be perfect if they were isolated from society. But, like, yeah, you're so right.
It's the societal norms that are keeping them apart, not each other. They have to break the status quo.
Do you want to move past the first scene of the movie? Should we do
Yes.
that? Or should we like
Yes,
transition into like the rest of it?
I do, but I want to say one more thing about the opening, which is that this opening sets up that they are like the same way Romeo is set up to be this romantic. I don't necessarily think that referring to Troy or Gabriella as romantic in like the sense of like, oh, they're like idealistic makes the most sense. But I think maybe just like being kind-hearted, like that's the best word that I can think of, right? Is that they're just like two, like, turns out that they're actually like kind of cool, nice people. And at first I was like, how is this going to work? Because this is not, like, we meet these characters at New Year's Eve and this is not their like day-to-day life, right? Which you guys know for me, I'm like, we have to start in the ordinary world or whatever. But it actually is, because they start and Troy is playing basketball and Gabriella is studying. Okay, so that's their ordinary world. And then what's the most adventure that they would have on sort of a day-to-day basis? They'd be on vacation, they'd meet somebody, they'd would really connect with them if they met somebody. Basically, and this is like so Disney, right? They meet somebody as kind-hearted as they are, and that would be what their day-to-day consists of. That's the most, like, that's the best that their life before she shows up at East High is going to get. So in terms of story structure, it's actually pretty tight, even though it does aesthetically kind of switch it up a little bit. Like my instinct would not have been to write this to start this movie at a ski lodge in New Mexico, right? Like I probably would have started it at the high school and we meet both of them, but they haven't met yet, right? But also, I wouldn't have made a movie called High School Musical that's about preparing for a callback either. So, I mean, this is full of unique ideas. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about that.
I had I wrote a note about the opening. I thought I would share it.
Please.
I said the immediate tension of a New Year's kiss less than 5 minutes into the movie is unheard of these days with woke Disney.
Also, this movie made me, like, I don't know, think something about New Year's, like, something special was going to happen every year. And, like, nothing ever happened, like High School Musical. But, like, it made me as a kid, I don't know, look forward to New Year's or something. Or, like, winter break, serendipity, you know what I mean? Things like that, which this movie does a good job at. Another thing that's in this scene, and also in every scene, is just, like, the extras really pulled their weight. And that was probably due to Kenny Ortega being the choreographer as well and orchestrating every little movement and everyone's energy. But, like, without those, the sheer amount of extras in every scene, I think, like, they're always constantly walking around. There's never a part where there's just one person in a hallway until, like, I think Gabriella's singing in the school by herself later on. But, like, if they didn't have that many extras that were believable, it's like, would we buy into it as easily? But when it's just so, it feels so natural, even though, like, the main characters, what they're doing, what they're saying is so dramatic and, like, theatrical. But when everyone else is just, like, normal high school kids just walking around, and then during this, you know, the dance numbers, they're, like, a lot of people. I don't know. I just loved how many people were in each shot because so much of the shots were wide.
Extras love. I was not expecting during this discussion, but I appreciate it. Underrated part of filmmaking is a vibe.
I wonder if, since they were, like, technically all students at the school and they used them over and over again, if they were even considered extras or if they were paid as, like, actual actors in the movie, because they're also the ones doing the dance numbers, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
I did a deep dive into the credits after this movie because if you stay and watch the credits, the credits go by in about 30 seconds, and I went, no shot.
Yes. That's what
'Cause
I was saying.
I was looking for like the first AC because you know me, I wanted to look to see who the camera department was. There was no cinematography section. They listed the gaffer and the key grip, and that's it. And then I went on IMDb to like find these people because I was like, who worked on this movie? Like, they are not in the credits. They're like legitimately not in the credits. And then the post-credit scene happens with Sharpay and Zeke, and I was like, oh, they're gonna go into the full credits now. And they don't. There's no full credits. So like none of the extras are listed. Like there's not a grip in sight in the credits. Shout out to where is it? I thought I wrote her name down.
Do you also see Weird Kid number 1 and Weird Kid number 2 in the credits?
Yeah,
thought that
I
was
did
funny.
see that.
Who are they?
I'm assuming they're the ones that were like, it's hard to believe, like, you know, like people
The
doing weird-
performance artists.
Oh my God! When Miss Darbus was like, see a counselor. Oh my God. Okay. The production design is notoriously cheap, and also they stretch their dollar as far as it can go.
No, I don't even think it was cheap. I think that like high schools just look like that.
But the snow on Troy's hair during New Year's does not even come close to melting. That is like,
It's cute.
yeah.
I actually, to be quite honest with you, didn't see it and also don't give a fuck.
I've never noticed that or thought about it or would
right.
would have cared.
You're just
Okay,
being you're
one
being a
could
hater.
One could say
No, I
though,
think
that
it's good. I think it's funny. I think it makes the movie. I just wanted to
the high
mention
school
it.
being mostly white, like in every shot, just like completely white lockers, white walls, no posters or anything. One could say that it's like to represent a sterile environment in which, you know, stress is higher. I don't know. It's very white.
So we are still at the very beginning. Let's
Let's get our heads in the game.
facts.
Wow.
Here's some notes of mine. I screamed when he said Gabriella. Ashley Tisdale, great casting, one of the greats. I thought it was crazy. Now I'm just like listing random notes. So Liz, I know you were saying my notes aren't even that insightful, but you can tell by the quality of mine that I also just want to share some, like, why did Chad say she spent Christmas break shopping for mirrors? I was like, that's not a good burn. I noted the pacing too. A lot was going on. It is all happening very
Why was
fast.
he wearing 3 watches?
I did not notice that. Who?
Chad. Why does he have 3 watches?
Because he's a fashion icon.
With his
Because in the 2000s, everything had to be layered, not just the clothes. Like, my mom noticed that. She was like, do you notice that they're all wearing layers?
Okay, I said on that note, I said that girls with a strong nose highlighter and a sublease in Bushwick wish that they could pull off the outfits of Miss Gabriella. Because she came dressed to the nines in her grandma skirt and her layered, thrifted...
And her Mary Janes.
Yeah, her Mary Janes and her thrifted, like, blazers.
It was giving Latino with conservative parents.
honorary Latina.
Like, she's like, not Latina, right?
She isn't, but I don't care.
Isn't she, like, is she Filipino?
She's Filipino.
Yeah.
I noted Gabriella keeps it classy, but you know she could get messy.
What?
Okay, you know how in High School Musical 2, like, Gabriella is very nice to
Oh.
Sharpay. She's like, brr, brr, ma.
And then they
and
fight.
Sharpay is like, why are you being nice to me? And then later on, they fight. In this movie, from the jump, Gabriella, like, the subtext of Vanessa Hudgens' performance is, don't mess with me.
The way
You know
she
what I
looked
mean?
at Sharpay in the hallway, crazy.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like, new girl. Okay, anyway, the cut. This is a very West Side Story cut. actually, because there's that moment in West Side Story, they throw the basketball in the air and it transitions them
Yes.
into
Yes.
I think the Jet song, or no, it's the prologue. The transition to get you ahead in the game when basketball in the air comes down. It's like just a little flare, just a
And
little
then the
detail.
zoom out. Yeah. That was.
Oh,
just
there was a big
crazy.
zoom out?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as where we are, like story structure wise, in Troy's story, get your head in the game is like the beginning of his debate, whether he's going to prepare for the callback, like just to like double down. It is a musical about callbacks for a musical. We never see Twinkletown.
Well,
We
they
don't know what
haven't- they
Twinkletown's
haven't-
about.
They haven't even auditioned yet at that point. So
Right,
he's
the
just thinking about
yeah,
it.
true.
He's
He's
just
thinking about auditioning. Yeah, the audition is the okay. Y'all get ready for the callback. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know what the reference track for Get Your Head in the Game was, because, like I said before, it is basically like a 90s hip hop song. But what song is it? Because it also feels very unique, right?
It is.
And I don't
think
know
it's like-
enough about hip hop to say, oh, this is the song that they pointed to as a reference. But I would like to like ask. You know what I mean?
I think it's really interesting that it's High School Musical, but it's like not like the music isn't like musical theater. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I think
Totally.
that is like what makes it like accessible. And
That changed my life.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, like obviously I wasn't like taking note of like the music, I guess, as much, but it's like, okay, they're not like movie musicals these days are like we have the damn Wicked musical coming out, which is like musical theater. Like they are like belting and singing their little high notes, and I don't know anything about singing, but you know they're using like vocal techniques. But no, with this they had Drew Seeley and Vanessa Hudgens in the studio.
High School Musical walked so Hamilton could also walk. And
I don't think that we need to be saying that necessarily because I don't know
But-
if I agree with that.
well, I mean, it's not just High School Musical and it's not just Hamilton, but they are like the High School Musical series, Hamilton, and then you see that whether it's on Disney Channel in Descendants,
And then only
or-
for the night.
Yeah, right. Okay. For a long time, like show tunes kind of became their own genre and like started, they were just talking to each other and it was just everybody kind of wanting to sound like Sondheim, I feel like. That is why it's like, oh, I'm a theater nerd. Like, I don't really think there was such a thing as a theater nerd when like Irving Berlin dropped White Christmas and everybody was like, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Like, that's just a banger, right? Like, these songs used to be pop songs, basically. And West Side Story did that too, is they were like, okay, that was jazz then. Jazz was their hip hop, right? That was jazz then. What does jazz now sound like? Maybe it's a little more modern, but and you're like, whoa, that's weird. And then pop became more simple. I think with the like advents in technology, listen to new musicals being made, they are stuck in the musical sound, which was directly related to earlier musicals, and they are not moving on for whatever reason. So that's why I think it's noteworthy that like High School Musical is like, this is a pop musical. This is a hip hop musical. Get Your Head in the Game is a hip hop song. Drew Seeley is doing like what Jasmine Cephas Jones does in Hamilton. These are like, this is a pop style of singing. And as you guys, as the three of you well know, I think that's strange. I think that there's an untapped market there. The Greatest Showman tries it. Like Pasek and Paul try it with The Greatest Showman.
The music is good in that movie.
The music is good in that movie. The music is good. I like that. I like those tunes. But they still hesitate. They still pull back. Caroline, as an actress in New York, you might be more apt to agree than anybody else, but it's like there's a lack of adventure. Like Shucked? Like, what'd you think of Shucked? Like, what do you think of these musicals going on now?
Hold on. Shucked was, I think, one of the most inventive musicals, new musicals that there has been in a long time. I think every new musical now, like Water for Elephants, like all of these musicals sound exactly the same. It's giving stomp clap. It's giving like, oh, like we're making the music with our bodies. Like it all sounds exactly the same. And I think that High School Musical did such a good job writing this music for the screen, and there's a reason why it was never successfully adapted into a stage musical. Because
Well,
the
actually,
music-
High School Musical 2 Junior was successfully adapted when I played Ryan. But
there's a reason why it's only done in high schools. Because I would argue that the most successful if you were to make High School Musical 1 a stage musical, the most successful show tunes number would be Stick to the Status Quo. It's the only one that is so like spectacle and like brings the whole group into it, and like the range.
So good.
Otherwise, like it kind of like gets your head in the game. I mean, I know it's hip hop and like all of these start of something new. They all kind of stay at one line, and they're beautiful on screen, but would not go well on stage. So I think that they did such a good job of writing that, and that's why it works so well, because they're songs that, again, we all had that CD and we were listening to it in the car and singing to it. Like, they were catchy songs.
Yeah. And now they're even like, there are these tours that people are going, I forgot what it's called, but it's kind of like they're having these like parties in like clubs that are like 18 plus, where it's like all High School Musical songs or all Hannah Montana songs, and they're like touring the US, and they're selling out shows, and they have videos.
Really?
They have videos where it's like full.
You got to send this to me.
I forgot what it's called, but right now they're doing the Hannah Montana. It's called.
You're
like
telling me I could be in a club and they will play Rockstar?
Yes, they're doing that right now. I think like I checked the
Of
tour
course,
dates.
like Allie has her like finger on the pulse of this situation.
Well, because I checked like, and that also goes with our audience for like the Aquarium that we're talking about, like these nostalgic, like what are people craving? What types of connections do people want? And like people are buying like $50 tickets to these events, and I don't know. I think it says something when like it shows the crowd, and there's at least like, I don't know, 1,000 people, 2,000 people in these smaller arenas, like just like screaming at the top of their lungs like these songs. But also, wait, I lost my train of thought. It's gone. I was gonna say something else, but I don't remember.
Can I argue that perhaps, I actually think her first album and High School Musical came out around the same time, but the music of Hannah Montana and High School Musical are very similar. It's almost like a little bit of a campier, like elevated, maybe more theatrical version of what you hear on the radio.
Yeah. Well, just like the music of those, like, what, 5 years maybe between 2006 to like 2011, it's like crazy. Like, I listen to it now and it still holds up. It's better than a lot of modern pop music. Like Selena Gomez and The Scene, her first 2 albums, Justin Bieber's first 2 albums, Lemonade Mouth, like every single song is amazing.
Hannah Montana actually premiered after High School Musical 1 premiered, and I would argue that Vanessa Hudgens walked so that Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, Bridget Mendler, etc. could run. They tried to do, I mean, they're still doing it. Sabrina Carpenter. Disney picks these girls that they want to be like the next big pop star.
But what about before that? Did that not happen before, or was it really like, did it...
Hillary Duff a little bit, but...
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Zoe
yeah.
101, what's her name?
I just want to shout out real quick. Matthew Gerard wrote "Start of Something New." What's "I Can't Take My Eyes Off You"? I forget that song.
It's an extra song in the second movie.
An extra
Isn't it?
song. So he wrote "Start of Something New" and "We're All in This Together." He also, like, you can imagine Disney Channel had their little writer's room basically at the time. He wrote "The Best of Both Worlds." He wrote "Who Said." What else?
So they were all writing, like, coming sort of from the same place.
Yeah, and these are just like, you know, pop producers. I mean, he wrote for like Kelly Clarkson and like Hillary Duff too, and anyway, worth shouting out. You were saying these came out around the same time. It's that it's actually kind of the same, some of the same people. Jamie Houston as well. Jamie Houston did "Breaking Free" and "When There Was Me and You." He wrote "Pumpin' Up the Party," for example.
Ooh, that song is so good.
There's what's the sequel to Hannah Montana? It's like Miley Cyrus's album. right?
It's Meet Miley Cyrus, which has "See You Again," "East Northumberland High," some of like the biggest bangers.
And it was a double CD because I remember I would switch them out depending on the vibe. So it was like Hannah Montana too, and then it was Meet Miley Cyrus.
You
That's a
unfolded your
crazy-
album, you unfolded it, and there were like 5
Dude,
layers, like
yeah.
a fortune cookie.
So
Do you remember you used to have all the
Matthew
lyrics
wrote
written in there,
Nobody's
too?
Perfect.
I would read the lyrics and sing along to my little
Yeah.
Hello Kitty CD player.
Yeah, and then I had Sing It, which had all of these songs on there. So I think that's what started like me just like loving all of this music because it compiled the most popular songs from all of these movies.
Matthew Gerard also wrote Nobody's Perfect, and figured I'd throw this out there. Just fun fact, completely unrelated to High School Musical. Miley Cyrus is the first writer listed for "See You Again,"
Wow.
so
She ate.
never forget that.
Matthew Gerard really wrote all of these like very positive songs. He had a very positive outlook on life.
Vibe.
Nobody's
It's like you meet him,
perfect.
he's like mad depressed.
We're all in this together. This is the start of something new. He just really like wanted kids to be inspired.
It's true.
I think I read that We're All in This Together was originally going to be titled like We're All Winners or Everyone's a Winner, but then they were like, oh no, this is corny. Like we got to change it.
Yeah, I'm glad they changed that.
Yeah.
Should we perhaps try to talk about where we are in the movie, which is slightly further than the opening?
Well, how about we jump into?
Stick to this.
Let me comment real quick.
Oh no, the
Close.
callbacks. No, the auditions.
I want to mention first the titles. So
Oh my God.
Detention, Darbus Style, and Help.
Yes. I have a note that just says unnecessary title cards are taking me out.
Yeah.
I love them.
We never learn what the musical is about. Okay, what else?
You
Oh, wait.
actually do get a little bit of insight into what the musical is about whenever you read the High School Musical All Access book that was available at Costco.
Oh my god, I had that.
What is
Yeah.
Twinkletown about?
I don't know, and I tried to look for the book, and I can't find it. It might be in my attic. But it was like a big, thick-ass book. And it like there was like pages of the script from the musical or something like that. Like they definitely made it up to sell the book, but I remember reading it and being like, "Oh my god, I have insider information into what these characters were dealing with."
It's like when I got the Ben 10 book as a kid, and I was like, yo, I know like where all the planets that these aliens are from. Like my friends got nothing on me. They used that against us with Percy Jackson. They were like, oh yeah, he's like, like he's the son of Poseidon, and then we were like studying Greek mythology to like flex on our friends.
That was the biggest scam. It was like get kids to learn things.
What they needed to do was make Percy Jackson and the Mathematicians, because that's where I needed some help.
Dude, my cousin had like all of the books on how to beat different Pokemon games, and we would go talk to him like he was like a wizard or something. Like he'd like pull out the big book.
He was like the town elder.
He was like the shaman.
Yeah, we'd take our DS to him and be like, we're stuck in this forest, how do we get to the next town? And then he'd pull out his book, put on his glasses.
He's sitting there
this
like
is
the kid at the computer in Kim Possible, like.
Okay, so my next note on the movie is that Mr. Bolton, sexiest dad in movie history, ? Then immediately after that, I said, Mr. Bolton, best dad in movie history, ? And then directly underneath that, he looks like he should be coaching hockey, not basketball. And those were all of my notes on Mr. Bolton.
Well, like every supporting character in these movies really pulls their weight. Again, it's like it just shows that like in a movie it's more than just the main characters, it's more than just like the primary scenes or whatever, or the musical numbers. It's like literally every single moment, because Coach Bolton and Miss Darbus's like conflict, Taylor's group and Chat, like the team, and it's like every single character's adding just this additional weight and layer of tension to the existing conflict that's already like internal with
They're not like background characters. They are like
No.
active participants like in the story, even if they're like flat characters or whatever. It feels almost like especially at the end, whenever it's like they all come to see the callbacks it's like, okay, these like background characters also kind of did go through a transformation. They went from being like, we are unsupportive of your dreams and goals and hopes and aspirations to we love you, so we will love whatever you do.
Right.
And it's like, maybe that's what it is. Like, they're not flat characters. They really do like go through their own transformation more of, like as a group rather than individually. But like they feel very real because they are like active participants in whatever's going on.
Whole community learns to be kind from Troy and Gabriella, so their kindness spreads. So that's another way it differs from Romeo and Juliet. Like you were saying, it's not a tragedy.
Yeah.
Speaking of side characters, shout out Joey Miyashima as Principal Dave Matsui. Also, shout out some couple of great lines when Coach Bolton just yells, "Where's Troy and Chad?"
Yes.
and also my personal favorite, "What the heck are those two doing in a tree?" Okay.
The imagery of that like leaf dangling from the tree, and I can't remember. I literally can't remember if it's Chad dangling it. Yes, that like stuck with me for a very long time, and like for no reason. I just like I can close my eyes and see the little like green leaf like tickling his nose constantly.
Yeah. I just want to go back and like on that subject of like the friends having to change too. I love that it was like in order to I don't know, because obviously the story is about our protagonist and like how they need to change their belief system or like change their behaviors in order to get to X or whatever. But I love that in this story, the community had to change in order for them to be able to do that because it was a
they
school.
learn that they're all in this together.
Exactly.
That's why we're all winners would have made no sense.
Which is why also like I think that's the most powerful aspect of this movie because it empowers everyone watching to not just like, okay, not everyone wants to maybe play basketball and audition for the school musical, but I think everyone wants like love and everyone wants good friends, and in order to do that we have to be open-minded and supportive and I don't know, open to change. And so I think that that's the most empowering part because every single kid watching can like be more open-minded, and like that's what I get at the end of it is that like don't judge a book by its cover, don't like inflict these stereotypes on other people. I don't know.
We all can every day, and in fact later on in the movie even Troy and Gabriella have to deal with that. Gabriella becomes closed-minded to Troy when she feels betrayed. She says, "Oh, you're not going to treat me with love and kindness? All right, I don't want anything to do with you anymore."
Yeah.
And Troy does that too when he comes out and says that, you know, even though he's just saying what like Chad and the Wildcats want to hear. He still comes out and says it. He says, "Gabriella means nothing to me." And that's the type of thing that, you know, bro, like you shouldn't say, right?
It's funny because the one moment in the movie where they do actually kind of like go for these stereotypes is the audition scene, like where they make the other people that are auditioning, like those are the flattest characters in Weird Kid 1 and Weird Kid 2, Weird Opera Girl, like Whisper Girl.
Right, it's like the movie's all about kindness, but even like the movie can't resist like being like, these people cannot sing.
Right, like the weird artsy, like no, but artsy kids are still weird. Like don't get it twisted. There's a line. There's a line.
Whenever the like opera girl was singing, that's whenever I like started to like make the connection in my head that this wasn't like a musical, like it wasn't like show tunes, because like she was hitting those notes, like she was singing, and Miss Darbus was unimpressed. Now, if this was today, people would be like, "Did you hear her high E flat sharp?"
Okay.
Right. She was kind of good. Also, can I just throw in there, this is around the time we get introduced to Miss Darbus's kid that just shows her his watch. Her little minion.
Who is he?
He's like a middle schooler.
And what is going on?
Also, speaking of little side things, West High Nights are foreshadowed. I think when Coach Bolton is talking to the team, wanted to mention that because that becomes a big lyric in Now or Never. West High Nights, yeah, we're doing it right. Oh yeah, okay. Liz, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that during the auditions, whenever Sharpay and Evan are auditioning, Troy and Gabriella are giving them the dirtiest looks. Like, they think that they suck. And it was shocking to me because they were, not, first of all, not bad, but they were sitting in the back like this, like
They were haters.
they were being haters, and that is never addressed.
Especially when Ryan and Sharpay were eating.
They were incredible.
Yes.
They were prepared. They came like with it all and left nothing.
Wait, sorry. Who was in the back hating?
Gabriella and Troy sneak in and sit in the back row of the auditorium, and they cut to them like multiple times during their Sharpay and Evan's audition, and Gabriella and Troy are like this in the back.
I did not clock this.
Well, I clocked it immediately because I was like, this is like out of character for them almost to like
Right,
sit in the
right.
back and like be mean. Like, what are they doing? Because they never do it again.
Yeah. It was a bonding time. They were being a little too real, maybe.
And then I said that the bedazzled mic that she has is just absolutely everything. And I wish mine was bedazzled right now.
Or in Bop to the Top, she has a bedazzled like earpiece microphone.
Yes.
Okay, let's keep going. So, again, the story is actually about basically acing a callback. We never find out on screen what Twinkletown is. The Troy's story being about, okay, he has to decide, is he going to go in and audition? It's one of those things that, like, you might forget about, but it's kind of one of those things that makes the movie is he walks up to the audition sign-up sheet. You know what I mean? Something small like that, but that shows in his action that he's deliberating. What has aged well is Miss Darbus's hate for cell phones.
I said the same thing. I said they do not take kids' phones like this anymore. Like, those kids are
Miss
on
Darbus would have
Snapchat
quit
in
after
class.
COVID.
She would have had a full like mental breakdown. Like, the kids are out of control.
Hot take. I like the Sharpay Ryan number. What I've been looking for.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Kelsey's vision. And if you were Kelsey, which I think if we were going to assign characters, you would be Kelsey, you would be pissed. And then you would come back to us and you would be like, they don't get it. They don't get the vision. And what are we doing? What is the story here? They don't even understand the story. They're not taking the time to dive into the specifics. They don't even want this like I want this. Does anybody even want this like I want this? I quit.
Did you know what a composer was before seeing this movie? Because I didn't. And I like that it takes a moment to talk about it and like show that Troy and Gabriella have this respect for Kelsey, who they don't
Kenny
know.
Ortega made this because whenever he was younger, someone like had a note on something he did, and he was like, "I am the director." So he had to include. He purposefully wrote into the script, like, Troy and Gabriella being like, we have immense respect for your work and we will portray your vision as you see fit.
Well, this is but this is something that I did want to talk about. And like Victorious on Nickelodeon also kind of sold me a lie, which was that like schools would like be willing to give young writers a shot at anything. That has not proven to be true. But like Kelsey was able, I wrote the musical. Massive achievement. East High in this movie is full of extremely high achievers, which I do think maybe set a little bit of an unrealistic expectation. Troy is an incredible basketball player, allegedly. Kelsey wrote an entire musical. What else? Gabriella, like super smart.
Knows calculus already. Like, and isn't she like a freshman?
No, they're juniors.
But about Sharpay and Ryan's number,
Yes.
it's a question.
Yes.
Don't be mad.
Because we wouldn't know we need to know that their talent, their level of talent. I think that increases like the tension. Like, because if we don't know, because we haven't seen them perform, and if we don't get that number, we don't see them perform until Bop to the Top. We're not caring. I watch that number and I'm like, oh, maybe she has a point. Are they that talented? Like, can they do it? Like, so on all ends, there's just this level of like, oh, they're good. It's not like there's this empty space waiting for them. It's like they have to really make the decision. Are we going to try for this? Are we going to do this?
It's just that, is the movie about them acing the callback, or is it about them bringing the two groups together? And I like the number. But I think it's worth saying that like the movie doesn't end with breaking free. it ends with we're all in this together, because I think the movie is about two groups coming together. I know I'm taking High School Musical very seriously, but this is what we said we were going to do at the beginning. I don't know this for sure, but I kind of feel like High School Musical 2, you need Sharpay's version of You Are the Music in Me. In this movie, do you need What I've Been Looking For? Do you need Bop to the Top?
She needs, I think.
Because they don't need to get the roles.
Well,
it's not about getting the roles.
Maybe we don't need it, but I wanted it.
Right, but I think the other thing is, like, if they're not, like, auditioning against someone else, then, like, what is the point?
Right, there's antagonists on both sides. Like, there's the, like, they have to beat Sharpay and, I mean, beat is a simplistic way of saying it, but, like, the Chad and Taylor are mirrored by Sharpay and Ryan. On both sides, they have, like...
No one wants them to win.
Right, nobody, like, is really just, like, everyone, they both want you to stick to the status quo, and Troy and Gabriella are breaking that.
And everyone
I'm just saying you probably could have cut it, and it wouldn't have really made a difference. I actually don't
Well,
think
I
it
think
really
that you're
would've made a
wrong.
difference.
I think that you're wrong, and I think
that you're
everyone
wrong.
loves that number, and I think that says something in of itself. It's like, I don't think there's anyone besides you that's like, get rid of that.
I think you need to think about, like, your taste in things, like, reevaluate, like, how you what your relationship is to the movies that you watch, maybe, and maybe think about what maybe think about how you interact with the content that you consume, because you're wrong.
We were fully cutting to Bop to the Top at the end, and it made zero difference.
No, are you actually stupid? Are you actually stupid? No, that's a tension builder, because they have to be
Exactly.
there they have to be in the auditorium at the end of Bop to the Top, or else
Yes.
they will not audition. So we need to cut back to them to see how far they are in the song.
And otherwise,
Exactly.
they'd have no time. Like, they have to play the basketball game and have the science fair while that's going on.
Because the whole thing is that there are 3 events happening at the exact same time.
Are you stupid? Are you stupid?
Well, then
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't really think that, like, Troy wants to sing, but he doesn't want to be Arnold in Twinkletown.
That's his gateway to sing. Yes, he does, because he goes to the callback, and I think he does want the role. I think that's why he shows up. That's why he...
Well, maybe.
Well, that's why there's that last montage right before the callbacks and the game day or whatever, where they're all preparing and everyone's like kind of fixing what they did wrong, and they're all starting to support each other. You know, go drama club or whatever, that thing. And we see him practicing.
Right.
There's 2 practicing montages, I think. Isn't there, or is there 1? Maybe 1. But
I think they, like, are right by each other too. But to go off of that, I think that I think it's an important, like, characterization of Troy that he doesn't want to just be in the drama club and be on stage. He wants to be the best. Like, that's like a personality trait of his. Like, he's the best at basketball. And if he's going to do something, he needs to be the best at it. So, of course, he's going to try out for the lead role in the school musical. Why? He's not going to be in the freaking, what is it called? The chorus. He's not going to be in the ensemble. He's not going to be in the ensemble. He's going to want to be the lead. Like, are you stupid?
I don't know if Troy wants to be the best at singing. I do not.
I think he
Troy
wants to
wants
put
to
his
give himself
heart
a
into
shot.
it.
I think Troy wants to try it. And if he's going to try something...
He wants to be true to himself.
Also, why the fuck would they make a movie about someone who really, really, really badly wants to be in the ensemble of the school musical? Like, that would be a movie
Because
about,
there
like...
are no small parts, only small actors.
Okay,
And that
not
actually would
in a musical for the screen. Sorry.
They're not doing callbacks for the ensemble. They're only doing callbacks for the lead. Also,
Can you imagine can you imagine the like lack of tension if it's like, oh my god, I have a callback for tree number 4. And I also have the academic decathlon. Also, I'm so sorry, Nathan, but the ensemble doesn't sing duets. So how the fuck are these 2 love interests going to sing together if one is a bush and one is a tree?
I'm not complaining
No,
that
explain.
I'm trying. I'm not complaining that the callback is for the lead roles. That makes sense. I'm kind of saying, look, it's like when we watched Finding Nemo, and I can't remember what my note was, but I was like, yo, wouldn't it be better if? And then Allie was
No.
like, will you shut up? Will you ever enjoy anything? And I'm like,
I just said
should be
Finding
critical.
Nemo is 100%. Like maybe it's 98%. But like I don't think it's
Okay,
any
so
lower
there's
than that.
2%.
Can
There's
it be
2%.
any better? And Nathan was like, "Well, I just think if this one moment was like a little bit more," and like your edit was so slight that it's almost just like it's just a variation on the effectiveness. It's not even like I don't think it can increase its effectiveness. Like Finding Nemo is very incredibly effective. Like, and I think there's a layer of like it's also art. That it's a collaborative art. Filmmaking is a collaborative art with so many people's hands on it. So I think it's every effective movie is like a miracle. I see. So like I don't think this maybe is as perfect as Finding Nemo, like story wise, but like I think it's effective. And can this movie be better? Yes. This first one, yes. High School Musical 3, I think it's reached the ceiling on that one. But I don't know. I don't know if these recent edits or suggestions or whatever questions would lead to a better movie, I guess is what I'm saying.
Also, it's crazy to me that you are criticizing Bop to the Top and whatever the fuck their audition number is called, because there is a total snooze fest at the 3/4 mark called When There Was Me and You that I'm sure you love.
Run it back. That is one of the best songs of the whole series. That's them
I almost-
saying, "Here
I-
comes
when
the
I
best
was
song."
watching it-
even I would never say that. That
was
is
foul.
blasphemous. Yo.
Whenever it came on, I was like, oh, and I almost skipped through it.
I liked that song a lot. I thought I wouldn't like that song. Going back and rewatching it, I like that song a lot. So.
Well, also, When There Was Me and You is giving music video. This is when they were like...
She looks right
it's
at the camera
She
and
looks
she's
directly
backlit. I'm like-
into the lens. This is, to me, I'm arguing, this is when Disney Channel was like, Vanessa Hudgens is your new star. Her EP is coming out. Like, prepare yourself. Because, like, this is what it's going to be giving.
I
just
kind of would say
love-
that that's them figuring out the style. What is High School Musical? They're still figuring it out in the first one. I think they really hit their stride, number 2.
Come the very end of the song, I made a note that says, "Okay, wait." But the parallels to Scream. The entire thing, while I was watching it, sorry, Allie,
No, you're
I'll be
fine.
done in a second. While I was watching it, and I don't know if this is true or not, but like if you watch Scream right after you watch When There Was Me and You, they have the same exact like shots. Like she's like in this stairwell, like
She's on
going
the
like this,
balcony.
and then she goes and stands next to his poster on the wall.
Yes, the
Which
poster.
is
yes.
that's like the lowest point in the song, and that's also whenever he in Scream pulls his own poster off the wall. But in this number, she's like leaning up against it, like "Will you love me?" And then in Scream, he goes over and rips it off the wall, like "I don't love myself." I'm done.
I was just gonna say I just love like a sad like song like in music. Like I just love hearing someone sing a sad song and be sad. I don't know.
Damn.
I felt like also she needed a voice because in that scene before, like where it was a lot of like everyone was just kind of like attacking her. Like even Troy technically had a voice, even if he was like cornered to say the wrong thing. I just feel like she was very much just like whoa 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 and kind of like reclaiming her voice and what she was gonna do, and she needed that song because I mean Troy didn't have his own song. I guess he had Get Your Head in the Game. That was like a group number, so I don't know, but I felt like this was necessary. I kind of wish the first movie had a Troy solo, but I am okay with it because then we get Bet on It and Scream, and those are perfect.
I do kind of think that this is like, this song kind of makes a strong argument as to why this is Gabriella's movie and this is Gabriella's story. Because, yeah, in the next two movies, like, we get the Troy solos that parallel hers. But, yeah, like, we don't have a moment like this with Troy.
Yeah, I mean, I still think we're telling Troy's story, but if you're saying this movie maybe focuses on Gabriella more, that scene, yeah, that would be a good, like, point.
She surprisingly doesn't leave, though, in this movie. Because, people would always say, like, one thing Gabriella's going to do
She
is
always
leave.
leaves. She doesn't leave.
Well, she leaves while
She
he's
does
talking.
leave Troy, though.
She
in
leaves
one way
while
or
he's
another.
talking
Troy
like 4
left her.
times.
Can
I said... Oh,
Go ahead. I'm changing the subject a little.
okay. I wrote that Zac Efron with those blue eyes should have played Oppenheimer. Caroline?
What a note.
Anyway.
No, because his eyes are so blue in that number. He's like,
So I may as well just go ahead and change to the subject then. But I just have to make one more argument for Bop to the Top, as it is my screensaver.
oh my god.
In no other number do we cut back and forth. So I'd argue that Bop to the Top is just like a device to show the passage of time. And can we just say, has there ever been a more iconic passage of time? Like, they just, like, needed to write a song.
Bop to the Top goes on for 10 minutes.
Because it's literally, like, piece by piece. And I would argue it's most people's, like, favorite song of the first movie, or a lot of people's favorite song. And, like, it's literally just a device. So...
If I may also change the subject, I think perhaps maybe we should get into my favorite number, stick to the status quo.
Yes.
And I'd like to preface this, or not preface, what should I say? I'd like to begin this conversation as if I'm acting like I'm a leader. Okay, story explorers. What would your guys' stick to the status quo confession be? Because mine is that I don't actually enjoy watching most movies.
Is that even legal? I actually don't have a stick to the status quo confession because I'm pretty... I surround myself with cool people.
Boring.
I have to think about that one. That's a hard one.
Yeah. Like at college or outside, like.
I mean,
Like-
Allie,
Well, I
yours,
considered
yours
it
would be
like-
the same. It's
I would
Yeah.
consider
you're
it to
I don't
like I was
wanna
like,
be
oh,
I don't
like
know
what's
what
like
I
a
wanna
clique
make
that I'm
yet.
part of. And it was like, okay, I guess my clique is like film student. What's something that I
Right,
don't
right.
do as the status quo as a film student? But like I was also thinking like what is something I like don't do as the status quo as like a 20-year-old, and that would be play Roblox. So there's like a couple like different like
Well,
avenues that you could
like
go down.
in directing, I mean, I felt like people looked at me insane every week when I would just be like, I'm open to like finding another passion and like like starting a career in like marketing or in something else that's still creative and that still involves storytelling and writing. Like every time I said something like that, or like, oh, I want a stable job with benefits, like people would look at me like I was like insane and I was like a sellout. And it's just kind of like, I'm sorry, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be unemployed and living in my mom's living room for like a few years. Like, I don't. Like, which is like, it's fine if you do, but I don't think you should look...
It's fine if you do.
I don't think you should look down on...
She's saying
like,
that because that's me.
I just don't think that, like, people at our school, especially in the film school, like, I feel like they looked down upon people if they tried something else, even if it's just as, like, I'm gonna do this to make money, and then I'm gonna still make my art. And people think, like, you're a sellout if you get another job. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just, like, actually taking care of yourself.
Also, I'd like to say that maybe our stick to the status quo confession is that we love High School Musical.
And that we think
Yep.
it's like
And we think it's great.
cinema. Mine is a little different because of theater, because I'm an actor, but I would say it's along the same lines, is that I hate most theater, and I think it's bad and it shouldn't have been made.
That's a good one.
That's also how I feel about movies, Liz. I feel you, is that I'm just like, this is bogus.
Like, I just can't with the people that are like, I mean, sometimes it works, but I can't with like the basement theater that's like exploration and like very inventive and like.
Soon as they put on the masks, bro, time for an intermission.
I'm
if you
out.
get
I
what
was
I'm
I'm
saying.
just
out.
about to say the mask work needs to be banned.
Stick to the status quo.
Beautiful part right towards the end. It's my favorite part. Just needed to like get this off of my chest. Whenever Gabriella says that she's like, oh, I can't have people look at me, and she's like talking really quiet, and then every single person in the cafeteria just belts into like the chorus and they scream no.
No, I
Yeah.
actually like
I had like a full body
it was
chill.
crazy. It's like dum da, and it's like
crazy.
it's so
Said
crazy.
that it would be successful on Broadway, like that's the moment I was talking about, is literally like that moment.
Dude, and the chili fry shot, the POV chili fry shot falling, that was so great.
My sister noted when Stick to the Status Quo started, that camera movement in that shot when Sharpay stands and like presides over the lunchroom and it's a crane shot. My sister goes, "Oh, this is the first time we've seen the lunchroom," and I was like, "Yo, that's like actually like mad insightful." We're familiar to a certain extent with the school, but if we're Gabriella, the East High is as new to us as it is to Gabriella. This is the first time we see her in the lunchroom, and she feels uncomfortable. She's going, "Oh, I can't have everybody looking at me." This is the beginning of their journey to do the callback, I guess, to like ace the callback. Really, though, it's to bring people together. And so in order for them to do that by the end, they have to familiarize themselves with the groups, and they do that in this number. So this is a little like Blake Snyder's Fun and Games, a little like Joseph Campbell's Road of Trials, I think it's called. If we're doing our story structure thing, this is specifically Gabriella, but no, Troy isn't in this number at all, right? He's maybe at the end. I don't remember, but this is us learning who are the groups, because before this we don't actually really know that the extent of the problem. We know that it's basketball guys and it's math people, not just girls, but this is where we really find it out, and it does a terrific job at illustrating that, because we have Martha, who is not allowed to dance. We have Zeke, who is not allowed to bake. And we have Skater Stoner Dude, who is not allowed to play the cello. He goes, "Awesome! What is it?"
Is that a saw?
A saw!
Nathan, you are about to hate what I'm going to say. But I think we must bring it up. Perhaps maybe the phrasing can be a little bit different. But this cafeteria is a character.
I guess, bro.
And Nathan doesn't like it whenever people are like, the city was a character.
Because how can it be a character? It doesn't have agency. It's not a thing. It's a place.
No, but it
You know
actually
what I mean?
is, because like the way that this like cafeteria is set up is like very like I know they didn't build this, or I assume they didn't build this, like for at least the first movie. Like this is the real cafeteria from the first movie. And it's like, where the fuck did they find this cafeteria? Because this is crazy.
No,
And
the
then second
marriage
all,
of the real East High School with Kenny Ortega's mind is divine.
Yeah.
like the way that this cafeteria is set up, it's literally set up like a Regency, like Renaissance, regal, Victorian era like court. Like this is
Which
where like,
Sharpay
the queen
presides
would
over.
sit. Yes,
Yeah.
and like all of the subjects, like the people that are on the royal court, are like meandering around. Like this has strong parallels to royalty and whatever you call it. I literally don't have a word for it. Like Regency, not Regency, regal.
Yeah, Regency is the same root.
No,
Reg.
Regency's like an era or whatever, like with fucking Bridgerton. But you know what I mean? Like this looks like a place where like, yeah, it's like this looks like a place where like royal people of the royal court would like chill during the day because they had nothing else to do, and Sharpay is the queen.
Yeah.
And that I
Sure,
think is really
it's like a
important.
square, like a
Yes,
public
yes.
square. Yeah.
If it was like a regular cafeteria, like if they were just in a room, this shit would not go as hard as it does, unfortunately. It's like so important that they're in this like stairwell cafeteria 3-tier. Yeah. So I think that it is a character, okay?
I wouldn't say it's a character. I would just say it's a great location. It's a great setting. Physically, it helps to tell the story. So I think that's what people mean when they say that.
It's more, I would argue it's more of a stage. And honestly, the basketball court and the cafeteria are more of a stage than the actual stage in the
That's
auditorium.
so true.
Like, of the whole thing. Also, I just have to bring up a little point that we're seeing a rare glimpse of a school cafeteria before Michelle Obama's lunch program. And this is why Gabriella's
Back when they
entire
had
lunch
chili fries.
is chili cheese fries.
Speaking of broader, a carton of milk, and it's like full fat.
And that's what
Michelle
everyone's
Obama-
eating. Like, there's not a salad in sight.
before Michelle Obama, I would drink the strawberry milk every single day. Like, that shit was pink.
Those like gelatin fruit cubes. Like
If they made this in like 2010, like Gabriella would have flung like a ugly square pizza in the air.
it would have
Also,
been like the
speaking of
mushiest
snow-
green beans ever, but it would have been a vegetable.
Right, it would have technically counted as a vegetable. When Troy's dad says, "Do you know how much a scholarship is worth these days?" and this is like pre-2008, I'm like, "Oh, he's about to find out." The Boltons are about to lose their house.
Speaking on that note, how the hell are they affording that, like, gorgeous, like, New Mexico mansion with, like, these, like, floor-to-ceiling windows off of a basketball coach and what I can only presume would be a history teacher salary?
No, it's like it's
No,
so
the mom
like,
is
this
probably like real estate agent.
real estate
Yes.
agent. That's what it is. Yeah, she's the breadwinner. Coach Bolton comes home and is like, "Yo, whatever you want, baby." Okay. Okay. Let's push past. I mean, what else can be said about stick to the status quo? Right. Choreography is great. We didn't talk about Get You
Well-
Ahead in the Game. That dance break choreography is great.
Kind of in regards to both, because I was watching some of the like interviews about High School Musical, and like they said that they showed up and they did about 2 weeks of rehearsals, including like they would do 3 hours of basketball practice a day. So it was a lot of just like, so memorizing the entire movie, like, and the dance numbers in 2 weeks and then filming it. And Zac Efron said that, like,
Crazy.
it's a miracle that they got shot, like, takes of them, like, doing the dances right. Because he said, like, we would only get, like, 1 or 2 full takes of, like, the full
Wow.
performances. And he was, like, in Get Your Head in the Game, he doesn't know how they were able to pull that off because, like, there were, like, basketballs going everywhere. And, like,
Wow.
I think that's so interesting that they actually... Because I remember seeing, like, the behind the scenes of them dancing, and then they did, like, tutorials on how to do the We're All in This Together dance. Was this pre, like, Just Dance?
Like Vanessa Hudgens was a bad dancer. Like a lot of them weren't even dancers, I think.
Well, she ate, and we're all in this together. She was hitting that bum.
Pull it together.
I love. Oh, Liz, because I'm moving on.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, like, I miss whenever, like, all movies were shot on film, not as like a oh, we're gonna be shooting on Kodak 500T today and we're going for like a really like golden look. Like, no, they just, like, that's the only way you could film a movie. Like, I miss cheap film movies. Like, the look of this movie, like, feels like a movie, even though it's cheap. Which, like, I think that, like, High School Musical 2 is, like, the same thing, but, like, it's very different than this. Like, this just, like, feels like a movie. You know what I mean? Like, nowadays, whenever you have, like, a cheap movie, like, they're still using, like, an Alexa, but it's, like, you can tell that they have to, like, on a technical side, you can tell that they're moving so quickly that, like, it looks like a cheap digital movie. But if you have a cheap movie, like, shot on film, it, like, doesn't feel cheap. It feels like a production.
Like, the cheap choices are made stylistically.
Like, if you go on, like, but, like, if you go on, like, YouTube and you look up, like web series, like, they're shot well. Like, they're shot with, like, a nice camera and, like, clearly they had, like, a gaffer or something. But it's, like, you can, like, almost tell how cheaply it was made, and you can tell that they were, like, rushing. But, like, with this, it feels so, like, it feels like such a large-scale production just based off of what it looks like. I'll leave it at that.
I love the music when they come down from the roof. I forget about that every time I watch this movie, and then I remember that montage where they're practicing Breaking Free, and it's so... That's one of those things where they're still figuring out what High School Musical is. It's like a montage. It's a rehearsal montage. This is where they're preparing for the finale, and so it's like the finale's Breaking Free. How do they prepare for that? Well, they practice Breaking Free. It's pretty straightforward. And I get goosebumps listening to that. Okay. Once that montage ends, I think that that's the midpoint, right? They're prepared, right? I wanted to make a note about the notoriously bad peripheral vision of High School Musical characters. Sharpay walks in the bathroom, looks right at Gabriella, walks out. Gabriella comes out. Phew! Like, crazy. Okay, back to my Sharpay Ryan critique. Why do they need to save the school from people who don't know a Tony from a Tony Hawk?
Because this is the one thing that they have. Troy has basketball, Gabriella has being smart, they have theater, and they want everybody to stay in their own lane and do what they're good at. Even if you're good at multiple things, they want to be good at what they want to be the best at what they do, and this is a threat to them.
Yeah.
And it's insulting to them and all of the hard work that they put in, that someone's just waltzing in and taking all the glory away from them. This would be like if there was a character introduced at the beginning of the movie that was like a better basketball player than Troy. And Troy was like, "But I'm the captain of the team, and this kid's like better than him." Like that would be insulting.
That's interesting, and I actually think maybe I was giving their dialogue a little too much credit, because that may be what Peter Berezkini is telling us, but maybe they don't actually care about like protecting theater culture, and it is really like, I guess, in an ego thing. I don't really know how you would like.
Oh, I think it has nothing to do with them like protecting theater culture.
But that's what she says, though. She goes, "We need to protect the school."
I think it was because she's over dramatic and it was to be funny.
Right, like there's kids that are like, I need to protect the integrity of my drama department, and like, girl, you're doing Hello Dolly, and you desperately need an ensemble. Like, what are you protecting?
Like, it's when the hot, like, straight guy decides to audition for the musical, and the theater director is like, "Oh my god, you should be the lead," and then the rest of us sat around like, this is just not what Sondheim would have wanted
This
at
is
all.
disrespectful.
But it's really about you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, then I guess I wonder if I think I might have just missed that. I think I might eat that one.
I think that might be what the problem was.
Maybe you were the Troy Bolton of your high school theater program.
Let's move on. The parade after Gabriella hears Troy say what he says is gut-wrenching. Mm-hmm. Great writing. Is she's in there crying and everybody's having a parade without her, and underrated part of the movie that we don't talk about enough.
Why is he wearing a blue shirt in that scene?
Well, the blue, because the school is red. The Wildcats are red. Troy wears blue. Gabriella wears blue. And at the end, what's the color of the stage? Blue. So the red is this aggressive status quo color. And I know it's like very English teacher, why are the curtains blue? But actually, in this case, I think my sister was saying, blue represents their relationship. It represents kind-heartedness and love and etc. So I don't think it's an accident that the breaking free scene happens and it's like mad blue in this movie. And that maybe the next movie even, I know it's a summer movie, but that movie is drenched
So
in blue, right?
Yeah.
So something to think about.
And like Zac Efron's performance, I mean, obviously, like, we all know it's good, but just like in every single scene until like the finale, until breaking free, it's like you just see this tension in his face and this conflict. Every single thing that he says to his teammates, single thing that he says to his dad is just like drenched in like subtext and conflict, and I think it's like so beautiful. And I don't know, Troy Bolton is probably my favorite like fictional character of all time because I think he's so well written and well performed, and like, I don't know, great job. Like, I think all of us watching this movie and the other movies, it's like you want to be more like Troy, even though like he is, you know, deep in his conflicts in every single one, and he doesn't always make the right choice. And in this movie, we see him fail to make the right choice, and then he has to fix it. Another thing I like that he has to fix, even though his friends did it, made him say that. It's still
he takes responsibility.
He takes responsibility, and he goes to apologize. We don't see Chad going up to Gabriella and being like, "Hey, we messed up. We made him say that." It's like
no. It's Chad and Taylor own up to what they do. Mm-hmm. Troy owns up to what he does. Right.
Exactly.
So then Troy can't even shoot hoops anyway because he isn't being true to himself. So he had been, and he was able to play, and then that throws him off his game. And that's one of those things where, like, I guess that is, like, his dad sees that. I think maybe Chad sees that. Yeah, he and his buddies see that. His friends see that in the cafeteria. He's like, yo, he's not acting the same. They realize, basically, that not being kind about Troy wants to sing. Like, it's not worth it, I guess. They realized that
And I like how fast they realized how, like, what a bad friend, like, Chad was being. And,
yeah,
like, what a bad friend
it was just
Taylor
like, what's
was
the
being.
point? What's the point in getting what you want if it costs you your friend, basically? And that's Troy and Gabriella, is that they see how Gabriella was acting, right? They see how Troy was acting.
Yeah.
Taylor and Chad are both like, well, this obviously isn't worth it because there's no point, you know, kind of, if you're not being true to yourself, if you're not being kind, there's no point. And it just says that straight up. And that's very Disney. Like Walt Disney, low key, if he saw this movie, I feel like he'd mess with it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's,
And then again, it was like the Brainiacs were being supportive of the Jocks, and the Jocks were being supportive of the Brainiacs, and they were both being supportive of the Drama Club, which was so cool to see because they didn't have to do that. Like, Sharpay and Ryan weren't nice to them. Like, the people in that crowd weren't particularly, like, keen of them joining, but they did it anyways. And then, like, Sharpay and Ryan had this cute, like, reaction to it, which was nice. Like, it's not, maybe some people could say, is that scene necessary? Like, that little mini montage of where they're all being supportive to each other, but it's like, no, they need that. Even though they're all about to, I guess, compete with each other for time.
well, that's actually necessary. When does that happen? Does that happen
It
before
happens right
or after?
before. It happens right before Gabriella goes to the decathlon and right before the game starts. It's like during the school day, and like all of these
But
events
it's-
take place after school.
But it's after
Yeah.
Sharpay gets the callbacks rescheduled to
Yes, this is
conflict
the
with
day
those
of
two.
callbacks.
Yes.
So
So even after, yeah.
see, but like that is necessary because that is them getting into place to pull off the plan of bringing everybody together. And Blake Snyder talks about this in Save the Cat Strikes Back, I think it is. It's like the sequel to Save the Cat, and it's called the like 5-step finale, which I wanted to make a post about, and I still do. But there's different parts to it: gathering the team, execution of the plan, high tower surprise, dig down deep, execution of the new plan. And this is the gathering of the team. There can be further reading in the Spotify description on that. But it's like,
I love how all, like, a lot of the Disney musicals, most of them have, like, an encore song. Like, I love it. It's like you think it's the end of the movie, and then you're like, oh, wait, like in Camp Rock, it's like We Rock after, like, This Is Me and, like, the other girl song or whatever. But you think This
well,
Is
it's
Me
not
is,
even
like,
an encore, though. It's like, I don't know, maybe All for One is like an encore and it's like a stylistic thing, but We're All in This Together is low. Like, High School Musical is kind of tight in that We're All in This Together is them actually achieving
true.
the goal of the story, which is everybody, which I think is the goal of the story. It's not really the callback. Troy and Gabriella,
That's true.
they're only
You're right.
able to survive long term if these like status quo based social riffs are healed. So yeah, I wouldn't even call it an encore.
That's true. And I think the cast all talks about the day that they shot We're All in This Together, how, like, magical it felt. And, like, I don't know, I love when people can look back on something they did so early in their career with such, like, fondness, even now. Like, I know a lot of them, like, distance themselves from the movies in order to, like, you know, be more serious and advance in their acting careers, but they still all refer to that day as being, like, I don't know, so beautiful, which is so cool and inspiring, I think.
Joseph Campbell writes in The Hero with a Thousand Faces about the refusal of the return. Okay? So the refusal of the return mimics, like, the refusal of the call after the catalyst or inciting incident, which in this case, in this story, is Gabriella coming to East High, I think. But in this story, the refusal of the return is kind of that conversation that happens when they see that Sharpay has changed the date. So they go, we were, like, right before the refusal of the return is called the ultimate boon. It's the achievement of the goal of the quest, right?
Right.
Now, the achievement is basically, okay, the groups are united, and this is where I feel like it gets a little murky, where it's like, is the goal the callback or is the goal bringing people together? Because people are basically, like, united, and so it's like, well, would that not happen if the callback doesn't happen? But I think that an argument almost can be made that, like, yes, because like Troy, like seeing Troy and Gabriella on stage doing that maybe could mean something deep to the entire student body. And I think on an unspoken level, maybe that's what like the ending is trying to say is like they all need to get in the auditorium and see this callback so that the East High community has a change of heart. But like they do achieve, I guess, on just like the basketball guys and math people level, the ultimate boon, which is okay, they're kind to each other now, but they need to spread that to the whole school. And that's what I think maybe would make a better finale if it wasn't just like we have to win the callback, but guys, we're not going to be able to sustain our kindness for each other if we don't fix the skater guys and we don't fix Martha not being able to dance. Well, I guess Martha already is, right? Martha's smart, right? She's in the math group, so Martha doesn't really count, but like people like the skater guys. If Stick to the Status Quo also included more groups, you could say, we need to spread what we've learned to the rest of the community, and we're going to do it at the callback. And they prepare and stuff. But then they find that Sharpay's changed the date, and they're like, wait, our grand finale, us spreading this to the rest of the school, we can't do it anymore. That maybe would have made that, help that to be a little more clear, right?
I don't think our generation has ever been as united as we have been during like these High School Musical movie premieres or whatever. I think a lot of people are like nostalgic when it comes to like cable TV and all kind of, I know I am sometimes. I'm even kind of jealous of older people that still tune into like cable TV channels for like the news or like talk shows and stuff, because it's like they're all kind of, they have this unification of media consumption sometimes, where I think you can start conversations about different things and can those things be skewed and is everything great? And of course not, everything's not perfect, but I do think there was something beautiful about a lot of kids watching the same things. And obviously they still have that today with like Netflix and whatever, but I guess now there's so many choices, and like everyone still kind of consumes whatever they're interested in or whatever people are talking about on TikTok. But I guess before it was really, you had to turn on the TV and really find out for yourself. You didn't really know other people's opinions before you were able to form your own, or through anything other than conversations. And maybe that's a product of us just being kids, but like now it's like we know what everyone thinks about something before we even watch it.
What's another like a movie we all went to see? Like they did kind of start fading.
Barbie Oppenheimer last summer, I think that was a big one.
True.
Where it was like all different types of people went to go see these movies.
Yeah, like everybody saw Barbie. Everybody was
Right.
talking about it. Everybody had an opinion. So still, it doesn't
Right.
feel like people like, you don't hear like Pitbull got in a song and was like, I'm like Inception, I play with your brain. like you're not going to hear like Dua Lipa talk about Barbie. She'll make a song for Barbie, but like Barbie's not like in the lyrics. Oppenheimer isn't in the lyrics, so it's like, is this? I don't know.
Yeah, these were
is it the
High School
same? It feels a
Musical.
little different. I don't know.
It was really like anthems, and maybe we should go into, because we've talked about like the ending. We didn't talk about breaking free too much, but we kind of did. I don't know if you feel comfortable, but like going into like the impact. How many years later is it now? Almost 20 years later. It's like 18 years later.
I do want to mention just a couple more things about the finale before we like close out the whole movie. The rescue from without, that's Joseph Campbell. Blake Snyder calls it dig down deep. I think that's when they're on stage and Gabriella shuts down, and this gets to what Caroline was saying, which is like maybe this movie is mostly focused on Gabriella. Like she shuts down, the rescue from without. Troy rescues her from that doubt, right? Troy helps her to dig down deep there at the end.
Yeah.
And
Oh, what does he say to her? He says like just like kindergarten.
yeah,
or
it's just like
something.
kindergarten. Yeah, which made sense to me. Maybe I think could have been a little more clear or like efficient, because that kindergarten thing like was like a brief like conversation, and I get what
But
she
I think
was
it
saying.
stuck with him. I
Yeah.
think it stuck with him because I think it was like when she told, because at that point he took her to his hiding spot so they can have like a moment to talk to each other, and she told him that, and it felt like that was kind of trying to give him, or not, even if it was unintentionally, but it was like giving him some courage, but then his friends, again, there was just more tension that was stronger than that. And so, because I felt like in the middle of the movie it was a lot of like her empowering him, even if not directly being like, you can do this, let's do this, but I think he felt influenced by her, and to reference her words was cute. I thought it was cute.
Does it though most efficiently, quickly, like the action couldn't be clearer. Troy comes to her in a time of need, basically. Okay, that's an action of kindness. You add dialogue to it, though. Is what he says as clear?
Yes. I think it is. Because it's like, how do you loosen someone up in just like 2 or 3 words on stage?
Right,
They're
and that's
on
the
stage.
screenwriting question. That's a storytelling question. Is how do you cut right through, right?
Right. Because what is he gonna say? You can do it. I
Right.
believe in you. Or like,
Well, what would he say? You know, what's like?
he would use Gabriello's words. He would so do that. I think it's believable, but I guess I see what you're saying. Where it's not clear, but it is.
I had to think about it. He definitely couldn't say. Like, could he say we're in this together?
No, but to me, it's like saying like kindergarten is basically saying like you're safe, to try this thing. You know what I mean? Like to be vulnerable. But he's not gonna say be vulnerable with me. Like that's weird.
He could say like karaoke, but whatever. The ending of like the Campbell, Blake Snyder stuff is like it can get kind of murky. It's just they execute the plan, so they do the callback, and then they kind of return back to their ordinary world. There at the end, they return back to not necessarily being on stage, but by being in East High, and that really is the execution of the new plan. That's the story. What next? What did you want to go into, Allie?
I mean, just we talked a lot about like the impact and what it's done, but I read again in that Variety article that I read before, because it's what is it? I think it says like the oral history of High School Musical.
The oral history, yeah, because it's like lore, it's folklore,
yeah,
it's a legend.
And it says that so Kenny Ortega, prior to this movie, I think him and his agents were looking for a straight to TV movie that he could direct low key, so something that didn't attract any like much attention, but would just get him a directorial credit on a movie again, because he hadn't directed anything since Hocus Pocus. He did a lot of like choreography and stuff in the middle, and so he took a little bit of a break. So he was looking for something that could be low key and that could eventually like, okay, he could do this, do it pretty well, but then get back in theaters again, essentially. But then it's like this movie took off, and he said that he never expected that his next like theatrical release would actually be like High School Musical 3. Like it would be so big that it would lead to a movie that's in theaters and at that scale. So I thought that was really cool, because it's like they had no idea this was supposed to be something that he just did another movie so that way he can just get the ball rolling on some other projects. I thought that was awesome.
One of my notes that I had was, like, while I was watching it, I was like, do you guys think that Kenny Ortega knew that he made gold? Like, while he was making, like, do you think they were on set and they were like, yo?
He said that, that, like, halfway through filming, I think he said that, like, they should prepare themselves, because he had done a lot of, like, choreography. He choreographed, I think, Dirty Dancing, what other movies did he? I think like.
Dude, his credits are crazy. He directed Newsies, Hocus Pocus,
yes.
The Cheetah Girls 2. He
Crazy.
choreographed One from the Heart.
He choreographed the Best of Both Worlds tour, and I think the Jonas Brothers tour and the Michael Jackson tour, right? And so I think he told them at a certain point, like, I guess, like, prepare yourself, because he had a feeling this would be, like, really big. Did he think it was at the scale of what it became? Of course not, because it's a straight-to-TV, like, movie. I don't think anyone at that point thought that it could get so much, like, hype, especially amongst, like, children, where it's just kind of, like, we're just putting it on. I don't even think at that point, like, did we expect that much from Disney Channel movies yet? Like, there were some good dramas, but there was nothing that felt this large.
While I was watching it, I was like, I have this like fantasy in my head that he was on set and he like saw everybody dancing together and he got the idea for A Night to Remember immediately. Like Aww. He saw it in his head. He saw it. He was like, they're all going to go to prom.
Yeah, I wonder how this stuff is written. Is
Because it sounds like he was the key creative force behind it. So does that mean that he like throws all these ideas at Peter Berezkini and is like, see what you could do with this? You know what I mean?
Well, did Peter Berezkini write the other movies?
He wrote High School Musical 2
Okay.
and High School Musical 3.
Oh, sick.
I always wondered,
team.
like-
It's Scorsese and Paul Schrader for Disney Channel.
I always wondered, like, whenever, like, Kenny Ortega was, like, coming up with, like, what the story was going to be or whatever. And I guess I don't know, because I don't know what the official credit is. Like, is the story by Kenny Ortega? Or is the story by, like, I don't know. But it very much feels like he had a lot of creative control over things, which is, like, interesting for, like, a Disney movie, which seems like something where it would be, like, a bunch of Disney executives being like, we're going to have a girl and a boy and they're going to sing. Like, it felt very much like this was his project, less so like a Disney executive. And I always wondered, like, while he was, like, coming up with what was going to happen, like, what he thought in his head about, like, what the dancing was going to be. Like, was he doing this based off of, like, would he write the story, like, come up with the story, or would he, like, come up with these, like, crazy, like, theater dance ensemble numbers and be like, okay, where does this fit into my story? Because whenever I watched it, like, I was a dancer when I was a little kid, like, up until college. So, like, dance was very prevalent in my life, and I love the dancing in these movies because it's, like, it's not just, like, it's very, like, there's a lot going on. Like, they have these, like, crazy great, like, I think dancing is so much better when you see, like, a huge group of people doing it, and he has these huge ensemble numbers where there's, like, so many different moving parts, and it's like, how did he come up with this? Like, what came first? So I was always super intrigued by the dance numbers in the movies. So that's my question, Kenny, if you're listening.
I know he had 2 other, like, choreographers, like, helping him out, and one of them actually played, like, one of the background characters, like, I think on the team. Like, he was, like, a younger guy, and I think that is so cool. And there's a part in the behind the scenes where, like, Zac Efron was like, you know, normally when you go on to movies, I don't know what Zac Efron did before this, but I think maybe he did 1 or 2 more movies or something. But he was like, you know, normally you go on set and, like, you meet a director and it's like, it's a very serious interaction, like, hey. But he was like, Kenny Ortega was the first person where it's like, he would just come up to us and just talk to us like we were normal people, and that would just, like, set the tone for, I guess, the rest of the movies. And you really get that. Like, I understood that as a kid. Like, I feel like I could have this conversation, like, as a kid, because I remember seeing Kenny Ortega on my screen, like, dancing with them and talking about the movie and the story. And I was so inspired by it. I didn't know at the time, like, why I was so inspired by it, but I'm glad Disney chose to, like, advertise the movie with him, because think about it, us kids, we don't care who the director is of these movies. Like, we don't. And I think they made a bold choice to, like, make him sort of like a character in the promotion for these things. Like, because theoretically, it's like, why would kids care? Kids would not care. Like, in today's
That's so
day and
facts.
age,
He's
like
sitting
someone
there
would be
in
in
the
a
High School Musical
movie.
too, like promotional stuff, like hanging out with the cast, and they're like, yeah.
But I
That's
don't know.
interesting.
Also, apparently, it's like there was, like, internal buzz with the dailies, like, at Disney. Apparently, like,
oh, really? Where
apparently,
they were
like, yeah, it says, like, that the dailies were, like, contraband people wanted to get their hands on. Slowly, the buzz internally started to rise. So it's like, I guess people would see, like, some of the dailies and just spread, like, oh my god, this is gonna be crazy. But the movie had a $4.2 million budget, which was, I think, higher than any Disney Channel movie. I think the week before it got premiered, everyone had cold feet. It was the most money the Disney Channel had ever spent on a movie.
And it paid off.
It did pay off.
How much was the third one made for?
Not sure.
11 million. So, like, not that much more money. But
Yeah, but it made $253 million.
yeah, obviously.
And, like, over 600 people auditioned, I think. And they said that they ran auditions unlike any other, like, Disney Channel production. Like, they ran it like it was, like, a Broadway musical. And that Corbin Bleu originally auditioned for Ryan. Lucas Grabeel originally auditioned for Troy.
I I
And
remember all
then-
of this from the High School Musical magazine that I bought.
Yeah, and
The High
apparently
School Musical 3 senior year like special edition magazine with like the high res photos. I loved that magazine.
And I thought this was very cool. So he asked Kenny Ortega, like, so is Ryan, like, gay? How are we going to do this? And then Kenny Ortega was like, I never shared that part of myself in high school, and I wanted to be careful. I told Lucas it won't be something Ryan acts on at this stage, like, in high school. I don't want him to become a stereotype. But yet, still, like, people that grew up with these movies later on would tell Kenny Ortega, like, thank you so much for portraying someone like me on screen, or someone that I could relate to, even though it wasn't like explicit. And I think that's the beauty of well, great directing, great performances, and very
Great
careful
storytelling.
casting, great storytelling. It's great storytelling because so many people, we talked about this kind of with the Inside Out thing, but a lot of things nowadays is performative, and is this diversity, like, to actually, are you trying to put someone on screen that kids can resonate with, and actually, like, I guess kind of doing representation right? Because I think this is an example of great representation. And obviously in our generation we can be a little bit more explicit with like how we communicate things like this. Like now we can have a character that outright says that they are gay at a certain point, but I think this was a great kind of transition to doing this, like making a main character a gay theater kid.
Before we wrap this up, I want to shout out two underrated performers. I know I already shouted out Joey Miyashima, but Allison Reed as Miss Darbus, terrific performance.
Yes.
Every mannerism is Miss Darbus. She's great. And also Britt Stewart, who will continue to grow, I guess, in the amount of time that she's like featured on screen as we do, as the other two movies are made, but also as like we cover this, I feel like we'll talk about her more. I really first noticed her in High School Musical 3 when she's standing at the front of the ensemble in A Night to Remember, and she's also in this movie as a cheerleader, and I don't remember her in the second movie, but
She's the one during like the Night to Remember dance break on stage when they're at the prom, and she's like in the front, like killing it. Like you're like all eyes on her. Like we're not even looking at the main characters. She's in the front, outdancing them all. Dare I say, controversially. I do have to shout out Mary Borragino, the assistant camera, who was the only woman on the cinematography crew. And was also the assistant camera on this entire. Last night I stalked the entire camera crew of this movie. They all did, like, the camera crew, like they were making big moves at Disney. They did Go Figure, the like hockey movie. They did Read It and Weep.
Ooh, I used to love that movie.
And then the first AC for this movie was the first AC for Mockingjay Part 1.
Watching this movie I want to make a musical, like a big one. Let's do it, guys.
I want to
well,
choreograph.
we got to focus on the story, though. That's the thing. That's what makes this movie a hit.
Okay.
I'm
Yes.
kidding.
Whatever.
She said no.
What? Actually, like, whatever. I want to choreograph dances. Is that it? Are we done? How do you wrap these up
Yeah.
usually?
Like this. See you next week. Oh, wait. This has been the Aquarium Podcast, Episode 3, about High School Musical. Thank you for listening.
That didn't feel very natural.
Should we say like we're gonna this is part 1
Should we do like closing remarks?
or
No, I think I'm
anyways,
just going to
I'll-
fade this out, dude.
You know what? I'll do my closing remarks. I had a lot
okay.
of fun. Thank you for having me as a guest this week. Let me see. I feel like I had some funny things written down that I didn't get to say, so maybe I'll say those quickly. Shout out to Jason Laperta and Natalie Hart for their casting that changed a generation. The unnecessary title cards redeemed themselves at the very end when it said help. Oh, her balcony in her fucking bedroom went triple platinum in my dream bedroom floor plan maps that I
Her
would draw in my
bed-
notebooks.
Her quilt on her bed that was like purple and like green. Oh my god, I loved it.
I feel like that might be. Oh, I said, who do you think brought the folding table and tablecloth to the intervention in the locker room? Like, they had a whole setup. Like, who brought that? 'Cause
So
I know
dramatic.
it wasn't Chad.
So theatrical. I think it was Jason.
It had to have been. I think it was Zeke.
Jason, what about Jason? Can't take him anywhere. He's always asking those stupid questions.
I feel like that's probably it. Oh, the lip syncing that they have to do in this movie is the same thing as the TikTokers that sing in their kitchen, but you can like hear the reverb and like melodyne that they put on it.
One last thing. We go back to the log line, and I can share what I came up with, and you can tell me what you think. Two different ones. As I said, there's two different stories. I don't know how to refer to Gabriella, though. Brainiac, math whiz, whatever, right? But
Brainiac is, yeah.
like math student,
smart
freaky
girl.
math girl, when a Brainiac, who he fell for on vacation, transfers to his school, a kind-hearted basketball captain must bring their respective social groups together before they tear them apart.
I like that one.
And then you can just kind of flip it for Gabriella. It's pretty similar. When the basketball captain who she fell for on vacation turns out to go to her new school, kind-hearted Brainiac must bring their respective social groups together before they tear them apart.
Yeah.
What
And-
a beautiful story.
And we'll be watching the other movies in the coming months.
I'm so excited for High School Musical 3.
I know.
Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week.